Well, that was KKR's co-founder Henry Kravis, who believes that when it comes to buying a company, you may need money and not necessarily brains. But what do you do with the business after buying it? That's the big question. But Vijay Mallya seems to be feeling the pinch of one of his purchases, what began by buying out Captain Gopinath promoted low-cost airline Deccan Airlines in 2007 has come to an end. Kingfisher Red, the low-cost service of Kingfisher Airlines, will be grounded as the company has decided to exit the low-cost airline service to improve its margins. Joining us now on the final word is Ankur Bhatia, director and of the Bird Group, which is a travel and hospitality firm. Thanks, Ankur, for being with us this evening. Now, what do you make of Mr. Mallya's decision to shut down Kingfisher Red?
I think it's a brand consolidation which is happening in the marketplace. Of course, I mean, with both the large full service domestic carriers, I think this was going on for some time of multiple brands being in the marketplace. But consolidating that back into a single brand, I think that makes sense. And I think that also in terms of branding, in terms of marketing costs, in terms of the customer expectation, I think it's a good thing to happen.
Right. Ankur, what does this mean for low-cost airlines, though, as a segment by itself?
The thing is, it all depends upon how you look into a situation. From a full-service perspective, I think it makes sense to keep the service consistent and have a two-class concept, a pure two-class concept, where either you are flying business class or you're flying economy class, and not have a low-cost service. And I think that has happened across the globe as well. But if you're just flying a pure low-cost model, then you are actually flying a pure low-cost model. Then there is no scope of actually doing any add-on services from there. So it's a direction towards that, where Kingfisher says that they want to be in a particular class of service, which is a full service airline, where they are actually flying with a two-class concept.
Well, Ankur, the real question is it becoming tougher to manage an airline today? Competition is increasing, costs are also increasing. What should an airline do to survive? Is it becoming tougher?
The industry by itself flies 70 million passengers, and I would guess a lot of them are repeat passengers as well. So you're looking at 20 to 30 million passengers who fly the Indian skies right now. If you look at the potential of the marketplace, you're talking about 350 million passengers we can actually afford to fly. So there is a definitive need of having more planes. There's definitely a need of having of this industry being a sunrise industry. Now, keeping it to the fact that where the current airlines are, I think they are all flying routes which they are competing against each other. Some routes and some classes and some fares they're flying much below their costs, which are being subsidized by either sale and lease back or other revenues of the airlines. That needs to stop because of the fact that you are flying a particular airline, you're running a business, and that business needs to survive on the revenues where you're coming from. The industry is growing. That's the good part of it. Of course, there are costs which are hitting the airlines, which is, of course, the depreciation of the rupee, the fuel costs, which are not controlled by these airlines, and of course, a lot of these costs are external. So, it's a very difficult industry to be in. It's a very because the margins also are extremely thin, as you know as well. So it's, deployed capital against what you are getting in terms of return with a thin, it is a very, very difficult industry to be in. And airlines are there, of course. I mean, they're there, they survive for some time. But having said that, there is also a huge potential for this industry to grow, given the circumstance of if the infrastructure is there for moving ahead.
Right, Ankur. So finally, are there opportunities then that have not been tapped? Is it that all airlines are chasing the same set of passengers? Are there enough efforts really that have been made to grow the market?
Well, I think currently, because of the fleets which are there in the skies, apart from the ATRs which are flying in India, I think there are 30, 35 odd ATRs which are flying, and they are the ones who are servicing the actual regional market. The rest of the planes, all the low cost and the full service airlines, they are actually servicing and they are actually vying for the same business, which is metro to metro. Now, there is a limit to the growth of that business. In terms of future plans, of course, if the industry has to grow, they need to add regional routes. And for them to add to regional routes, they need to have different class of planes, different class of services, and they need to have different models. I think if you have a look at the European model as well, these routes are actually outsourced to smaller players, where the smaller players actually consolidate business into a large hub, and then the national carriers actually, or the regional carrier, European carriers actually fly those passengers. So those models have yet to come in here. Of course, as I mentioned to you, the market is quite large, and there is a potential for newer players to come in, and of course the existing players to set up either subsidiaries or agreements with smaller players to actually reel in that business into their hubs. But this process is not yet started, and it's not. When people see balance sheets, when people see other opportunities in country for investments, and the returns what they're getting, of course, I mean, it's a tough business to be in, and I think one of the main reasons is that your opportunity or your businesses are actually dependent on external resources.
Ankur, thanks so much for joining us. Makes a lot of sense.